the Attorney General's office had to turn over to us. And it had the murderer, Fred Dodge, talking to a friend about getting his truck fixed. The friend was going to help him because he couldn't do it a certain day, but it had to be done, within 3 days. It was registration problem. And Dodge said to him, well, I can't do it on Monday because that's the day before the apocalypse. Now, Charlotte, I found that by going through the materials the police department gave me. What did he mean by Apocalypse Day? That was the day he went after Sam to kill him. That's absolute evidence right there that I have. I have a lot of stuff. I've done a lot of research on this. But let me point out that in the second incident, there were 7 eyewitnesses that wrote statements that were signed that what they saw, Mr. Dodge going on the porch where my son was sitting and attacking him, and Sam dropping to the ground, and him fleeing the site of the crime. Now, I had one really good friend. Not all police are bad, Sergeant Goodale. 2 days after that incident, he told me exactly what happened. And he told me that everything Sam had relayed at the hospital to them was true. Everything that Sam had said was true, and that they were setting up the whole operation to make Fred look like he was innocent. Now, this is a top sergeant who's a detective, and he told me this. And, of course, he wasn't. I'm sure they found out about that. And the sergeant was in charge of putting together the report of the crime, and with all the eyewitness statements and everything. Now, it was a very good report, and I'll never understand why it was allowed to be published, because it absolutely vindicated Sam, this police report. But they just dumped it. The district attorney just threw it in the garbage, and they came up with a completely different story, and they gave that story to the Community-Oriented Policing Group, which is the new policing system for the United States, right? Public-private partnership. It's all the global system for the police to take over our communities. They gave that their report which was all lies, to the Community-Oriented Policing System, which published it on the Internet 10 days before the really good police report was issued by the sergeant I just told you about, Goodale. I mean, it was the most corrupt thing. In retrospect, it's really weird that I should be involved in this, because I've always been following the communist-oriented policing system, which is the new system going in, where the public-private partnership between the police and the community, unelected people. This is the unelected system that was put in under Ronald Reagan. I was the liaison with the White House on public-private partnerships, the dangers. Well, this is the system that's going in right now, and it's going in under this COPS program and a lot of other programs out there that Jake knows about, too. So actually, Sam's 2 cases are good background information for the groundwork being done to put in the police state in this country. And it will be under the community-oriented policing system.
What do you think the motive was for shooting your son? Was it because of your outspoken work?
Well, we're not sure. I must say Sam had posted about a year before or so the list of the members of the Order of Skull and Bones on his website. And my dad and grandfather were members of the Order at Yale, so I had access to this. Nobody has access to those names, huh? And so we had access, and after about 10 years, we'd been careful about not posting it, right? We put it up. We're not at all sure that it was the Order that went after him. We're not sure at all why they did, but that is one possibility.
Well, what was his relationship to the shooter?
none. What do you mean?
It was just a stranger just showed up and shot him?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, well, actually, he knew the guy, believe it or not, and it was hard, because he had been a good friend of Sam's in high school years back, and it was a shock to him. And I feel that Fred Dodge, that's the name of the guy, he did not want to do it. I mean, he was an operative. I feel an operative of the feds. They used him. They had something on him in the past and probably let him off on something and said, okay, we'll let you off, but you will be an operative for us. So he ended up having to be in a position of going to his friend's house and shooting him. And I remember the detective asked him, said, well, why didn't you stay there while he was bleeding to death? And Fred just said, well, I was just so confused.
What reason did Fred Dodge give for shooting? None. He didn't have to. They were supporting him all along. They didn't ask him any questions, really. I mean, we had one video, only one video we got of the detectives questioning Fred. It was absolutely pathetic. I mean, the detective pretended, that he was really trying to get the truth. He did accuse Fred of lying several times, but Fred escaped that one, huh? And the word was coming down that he has to be protected at all cost. No question about it. Jake, I'm still very confused by this story. Can you give us a summary? Because we're going to be out of time in like 5 minutes. Can you give us a summary of what went down here?
Well, so one of the things I wanted to mention was that if I remember, I'm looking at my article I wrote. It's been a long time. The official story that the police went with publicly was that Sam shot himself, and so they were both charged with
himself in the leg. Yep. Mm-hmm.
With criminal threatening with a dangerous weapon and reckless conduct with a dangerous weapon. Even though Sam is on his own porch at home by himself. So, I mean, that sounds like self-defense on my property. I don't know how that would fall under those.
Yep.
And then the other thing, these are the things that Charlotte and Sam were really happy about what I wrote. I just tried to go off everything that was public record just so I could base it on public record and just look at what are the contradictions, where are the questions. And one of the interesting quotes that shows up on the Portland Press Herald, this is a May 31st, 2016. It pops up in a very odd place in the article. It's towards the end. It says Assistant Police Chief Vern Malik. This is when they're asking about the shooting. They're questioning Mary Souschuk. That's the wife of I can't remember his first name. Yeah, the police chief.
Michael Souschuk, who's now Commissioner for Public Safety. Yeah.
Yes, and who was in charge, would have been in charge of the station at the time. It says Assistant Police Chief Vern Malik declined to discuss the harassment case from October 2015. That's the first incident with the audio that says it's going to pop him in the head because there was no conviction. I'm going back to the quote, because there was no conviction. And then the quote says, but Mary Souschuk said she had no involvement in the current shooting case, meaning May 2016. Yeah. Which is just a really odd statement to put in. Like, who thought she did? Why are they asking that? Why is it in this report? And so it kind of lends credence, and it corroborates, like what were they talking about when they said pop him in the head? And that was supposedly about, whatever the harassment Mary Souschuk had been complaining about. She's the one that complained about the harassment that they went to talk to him about. So that's that. Those are the. I know I didn't summarize that.
Well, let me ask you a question. Was Dave Fred Dodge? Now, was he? Did he appear at the Sam's doorstep based on his contact with this woman who felt she was being harassed?
No,
had nothing to do with that.
I don't know. I think that the Mary Souschuk involvement was simply when Sam tried to get through to the police chief about 8 times, and he never called her back. And he finally made a mistake. It wasn't his fault. He got through to her. He saw a cell phone number that he thought said it was Souschuk, and he got through to her, and she was very harassed by it, very upset, very rude to Sam. And from that time on, she was involved because
Sam didn't mean to be rude or anything, but she decided to attack him for his out of line contacting her as she's the wife of the police chief. And it became sort of a different story. She was always lurking in the background to really get Sam and go after him for contacting her, and he was really only trying to, in a way, protect her. This one tape we have where he calls, leaves a text message, that he's really sorry, and he apologizes to her profusely and saying, "I didn't really want to mean to bother you," but she was really after him, and she and a couple of police officers, they managed to throw him in jail at one point, and then they really went after him. Yeah, I mean, it's a very complicated story, and I think if it's going to be dealt with, Jake's article is really very, very useful. I found it extremely useful. It puts it in context for me. Because even I find the whole thing, we've been fighting it we've given up now. We just figured once they sealed the case, they really had sealed their own criminality involvement in it once it was sealed. I mean, people should just say, why was it sealed?
And that's how my article ends. It's the attempted assassination of Sam Iserbyt. But, Ed, you wanted to ask a question.
Well, I was going to ask, what was his reason for wanting to contact the police chief, and how many times did he contact the police chief's wife? But the thing is...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it was really a good reason. Sam just does really normal things that are quite nice. He had somebody bang on his door one night. You have to remember, a U.S. Marine combat, and he opened the door. They really sort of busted his door a bit, and these two police were there, and they wanted to talk to him, and he didn't have anything to. I think they were in the wrong place, and then the door had been damaged, and Sam didn't react the way most returned vets would, right, by shooting the source of the problem, which was they both had guns. And so he called the police chief just to be nice. You know, we're meant to have community-oriented policing, which calls for the citizens which I don't agree with, but to be more deeply involved, unelected citizens to be more deeply involved in the running of the police. Well, so he talks to the chief, and he said, I think you should know and warn your officers not to bang on doors. There are too many returned vets from Afghanistan, Iraq, wherever, who are going to react by their immediate reaction will be to shoot. And you're going to lose some officers. So that is why he called. And the police chief, who is a real peacock, I call him, he's now the commissioner of public safety, I call him the peacock, he decided, I don't need any help from you, sort of, right? And he decided to go after Sam then.
How many times did he call the wife's cell phone?
No, he just left text messages.
Okay.
Yeah, and he couldn't get through her, so he kept sending text messages, and she never responded.
Okay.
And he was really frustrated, you know.
But then they dropped those charges. He won that case. They charged him with harassment. He won that case, and that's when you had the recording about we're going to pop him in the head. And then
when they left the house, yeah.
But then years later, this guy Fred Hodge.
A few months later. A few months.
A few months.
6, not even 6. Yeah.
Just out of the blue. Now, what did Fred Dodge do for a living?
He was a builder, you know, construction and all. He had a little company.
Okay. Does he have any kind of previous criminal record?
Yes.
For what?
No, you can't find it. We tried to find it, but we know because he told Sam that he'd killed somebody. They had been friends, so he told Sam that he had killed somebody.
Now there must have been go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, I was just going to say because earlier she said she didn't know him. they didn't know. But what she meant was they were friends in high. They hadn't really talked for years. That's so they were
I understand
right. So that's what if it sounded.
Okay, but now there must have been a time though that